Hello, everyone, and a very warm welcome to yet another webinar on a very niche and significant topic. Today, we'll be discussing the topic, role of gig economy and resurgence of India Inc. The Indian gig economy has been increasing year on year, and the blue-collar workforce has been growing along with it. According to an ASSOCHAM report, India's gig economy is expected to grow to $455 billion by 2024 at a compound annual growth rate of 17%, with the potential to grow at least double the pre-estimates of the post-COVID-19 period. COVID-19 forced businesses across the world to rethink their operational strategy. Perhaps in terms of impact, nothing stands out as much as the mainstreaming of the hitherto sidelined gig economy in India. The past few years in particular have seen a steady increase in the gig workforce, and this is a change that seems to be here to stay. This sector has never witnessed such tremendous growth, and industry experts estimate that there would be over 130 million gig economy workers in India, with many more expected to join this pool. And today, I have two industry experts with me, and we'll be discussing some key points such as role of technology to boost gig economy, empowering the blue-collar segment by creating a roadmap with the help of the government, and the evolution of blue-collar workers in this digital world. Without any further delay, I welcome my first guest. Please welcome Mr. Rajneet Kohli, President and Chief Business Officer of Domino's India. Welcome to the show, Rajneet.
Thank you, and very good afternoon to everyone. Thank you, Abid.
Thanks so much for joining us. So Rajneet, I'll share a few words about Rajneet. Rajneet is an MBA from the University of Wales, the UK, with an entrepreneurial bent of mind and success in shaping winning strategies. And he has over 24 years of experience in FMCG and retail industry. Rajneet has worked in two very big and respected companies of India. One is the Asian Paints and Coca-Cola. Rajneet joined Jubilant Foods 3 years back and successfully heads the largest Domino's markets outside the US and manages 1,400 plus Domino's restaurants in India and a large team of 30,000 plus employees. And he also heads all the functions such as operations, marketing, business development, projects, and training. He has a sharp knack for everything digital and known for customer obsession. His sole vision is to make Domino's a food tech powerhouse. Once again, welcome, Rajneet.
Thank you, Abid, and a very great honor and a pleasure to be part of this.
Thank you so much. It's our pleasure too. And my next guest is Mr. Praveen Agrawala, co-founder and CEO of Betterplace Safety Solutions. Welcome to the show, Praveen.
Thank you, Abid. Pleasure to be here with you and Rajneet.
Thank you so much. Since we all know Praveen is the CEO of India's largest tech platform for blue-collar workforce management and blue-collar workforce management, Betterplace was launched in 2015. And prior to this, Praveen has worked with SAP as a vice president and global head of business by design. With experience of approximately 20 plus years, Praveen has a strong expertise in cloud strategy, CRM, people management. And he's currently an investor and advisor in several tech startups as well. Once again, welcome to the show, Praveen.
Thank you so much, Abid.
Thank you so much, guys, for joining us, because we are going to discuss something very important yet niche, as I mentioned earlier. And I don't think we will have more than, we have two industry experts, one Betterplace, Praveen, where you understand the industry very well. You are dealing with a lot of gig workers and blue-collar workers and formalizing their work. And on the second hand, we have Mr. Rajneet. I think with running more than 30,000, 1,400 plus stores and outlets, he is also managing a lot of gig workers as well. So I'll open the floor for discussion now. And the spotlight is on you, Praveen. The frame is all yours.
Thank you so much, Abid, for the beautiful introduction. And Rajneet, it's a pleasure having this conversation with you on perhaps the most important topic that everyone is discussing these days, which is what about the gig workers, how's the economy would look like. But before I get into specifics of gig worker, let me start asking something which is there in everybody's mind. Given the current situation of pandemic, the challenges that every organization is facing with respect to managing the workers, managing the financials, managing the business, and you are managing 1,400 stores, 30,000 people. How are you really taking care of your people? How are you keeping the morale high in these tough times? How do you ensure that they are connecting? And in fact, your business is growing continuously. So how do you do that?
Thank you so much, Praveen. I mean, honored and a pleasure to be, in August company of yours. I'm here all to learn, to be very honest, and I'll try to answer whatever best to my understanding. I think it's been a very challenging year for all of us in every industry which is there. It's a one kind of a black swan event that of our lives. And I can tell you, as leaders, we are all thrown off the gear. We didn't have any playbook. And neither one of us were trained in our B schools to manage such crisis. I can only say at Domino's and Jubilant, I think we were little prepared ahead of the impending crisis. A few things that I can share in terms of steps that we've taken and are still taking, and probably that's a learning again for us. I think we were able to listen and reach out to the international world and understand before the crisis really ended up in India. I mean, remember on 2nd of March itself, 2020. We had our first meeting. I headed that saying, what if scenario, right? The COVID, if it kind of comes in India, what will happen? And what I learned from China and other countries was very scary. So actually by 6th, we had a new SOPs in place. We ordered PPs worth 8 crores. Imagine in a company, you go and tell, the board that I want to order PPs. Nobody even knew what PPs were at that stage. And we said, you want to go and change the SOPs all across the country. There. And a lot of industry guys told me, what are you doing? Because if Domino sets this benchmark, then everybody needs to follow. Today, of course, you can't stand up in Delhi without wearing a mask. You get challan for 2,000 rupees. So, but little back then, it was just 3 cases in India of overall COVID, was little ahead of the time. But I think what ensured, and I have to talk about the human heart here versus the mind here. And as Indian, I feel really proud leading this kind of team. We were able to train around 29,000 of our employees across the country on new SOPs in 48 hours. By 6th of March, our teams were trained on new SOPs, how to wear a mask. We made small videos, how to wear gloves, how to wear a mask. And then we also learned and launched zero contact delivery, because I wanted to keep my employees safe first. I mean, that came, the first thing was we've got a large team of people. If all of them start falling to COVID, then what will happen? So we launched the zero contact delivery, both from employee perspective and consumer, that we would not actually touch the food. We leave it at the gate, 6 feet away. But once the lockdown happened, and this was launched by 17th of March, even before the first lockdown happened by 25th of March. And but once the lockdown happened, I can tell you every business, including ours, was impacted. Imagine the transport services were all suspended. Mumbai, if somebody is Mumbai here, a lot of people will understand. If the train stop in Mumbai, that's the heart of the city, then everything comes to standstill. So we took few steps. We gave our bikes to our employees, saying take them home, let people walk down to stores. We gave them all kind of things. A lot of our team members were, parents were fearing. Team members were asked not to come back. Landlord said don't come back. So we ensured accommodation for our employees as well. But even then, it was very difficult to get employees back to work. And I'm sure every businesses would have faced the same. I think one of the things that we did, and this is circa April 2020, when neither Amazon, Flipkart, grocers, anybody was allowed to deliver, I realized that we have 20,000 riders, right? I mean, that's for Domino's, but there are employees, and we pivoted our business model. We partnered with companies like ITC, Amul, Tata, and launched essential services. Now started distributing atta, dal, rice, milk, and launched Domino's Essentials in 600 stores. Two things that happened. Our teams and employees feel really good that they're doing a good for the country and for the people there. So they started coming back to stores and they started doing that. And I coined them as food soldiers, that you're here to, you are the food soldiers, you're the frontline guys and serving food. I think that changed the entire landscape. My learning here, Praveen, is, the purpose is bigger than the push. We can all push, give incentives to teams, but if the higher purpose is there, teams really go out and do that. And that's what, the entire journey has been, of looking at people, employees, but looking at them as food soldiers. and just keeping them motivated through constant communication. We had, I always say that over communication doesn't kill anyone. So we used to connect town hall every 3 days. We didn't even wait for a big town hall. And that's the core of the business. And I must say that I am blessed to have amazing set of people in the team to manage this.
Oh, fantastic. I mean, this is amazing. Few things that you mentioned, especially starting from the very early days, right? Rather than waiting for things to boil down to a situation where you can't manage it. And second important thing that I pick up from your conversation is how do you connect continuously with your employees, right? Because during tough times, it becomes even more important that we are talking to them more often than otherwise. Right? And third thing is, how do you utilize your resources in the best possible way where they also see a sense of purpose, right? Which makes it even more exciting. And that brings me to the point that, as you said, that there was demand fluctuating, you had resources, might be others wanted to use it. And one of the things that we continuously hear these days is about gig workers, right? People who can do tasks half a day or utilize their time in a much better way. And we have been seeing this change with Olas and Ubers of the world or urban companies of the world. And I was very curious to understand, I mean, while there are certain industries which are focusing on this, and now hearing you, I believe that this change is bound to happen in every industry itself. How do you see yourself specifically from your industry moving into a gig world, right? Where people can utilize their time in the best possible way. When there is a demand, they can come in. When there is a shortage of supply, they can come in, or otherwise utilize their time somewhere else. And what's your take, being in both food and retail? How do you see this across the industries, right? Food, retail, or manufacturing, for that matter? Any thoughts that you are developing? Any theses that you are developing, Rajneet, on that?
Thanks for an interesting, good question. And I can tell you, it was baptism by fire for us. It's not that we were, and I think it's most for more businesses, in our retail industry or restaurant industry, change happened, and I think pandemic has accelerated the need for change, right? Due to COVID, all of us know we had frequent shutdowns, whether it's retail outlets, mall stores, different timings of operations. Sometimes dine in would shut down at 4 p.m. Sometimes curfew post 8 p.m. Even then, even till recent, last 2 weeks back, we had weekend shutdowns here in Noida as well. So when business is fluctuating like that, you cannot business, and this is a learning that we picked it up very early. I would say that you cannot have your standard 2 shifts of 8 hours each. Your business model that we've been working on, right? You're a dead duck today. So I think it got forced by this pandemic, but it's a welcome change. I can tell you, you cannot manage the entire employee cost and still make business sustainable if you're going to go by the old model. It's not happen. So I think businesses, including ours, need to be agile and flexible. And in that, I would say that gig economy or gig workers are playing a vital role, because you're talking about not those 9 to 5 jobs or 2 shifts up there. You're talking about moving, you need people for 2 hours. For example, in our case, in any business in restaurant industry, everybody knows there's a lunch hour, which is very big, and there's a dinner hour, but you keep people all through the day. Correct. So what we did during our time was also move our fixed manpower in April, May, we paid full salaries, everything. And rather than letting people go, we went a semi-midway, which is from fixed, we went to flexi first. You said, you come back in the morning hours, you come back evening, or I still need you for these hours, but you come back and I'll pay you. Of course, the salary could have gone down a little bit, but we didn't let go of a single employee. We didn't do any salary cuts. And that was our first, if I say, foray with gig, in terms of in one way of moving from fixed to flexi hours of working. And that ensures retention of the employees. That ensures they're tuned to the environment around them, which is changing, right? And that gives flexibility to business. And this is bound to grow. The gig work is bound to grow in all sectors. Now, a big change like this needs a big, brave vision, right? I mean, you're the pioneer on this one who's really started that. Therefore, it'll be critical a role that entrepreneurs, NGOs, policymakers, companies like us need to play to unlock this potential of gig economy and really they create that ecosystem around us to have vibrant, flexible, and inclusive. Very important is to have an inclusive environment. That's what my belief is. is there, that this is actually a boon for us as the environment around is changing, sometimes working hours being flexible. This gives businesses flexibility.
Oh, fantastic. I think this is good to hear that at the end of the day, it is about the individual. How do we give more comfort to that individual, that even the situation is going down, we are together with you and not staying away from the challenges that we all are facing, right? So really, really appreciate that. And Domino's being always customer centric, absolutely the delight that you focus on, the timely delivery, and so on and so forth. Uh, when the resources are coming part time, when you are having new resources, let's say for 2 hours and 4 hours, how do you ensure the quality that you are known for, right? How do you ensure that people continue to deliver on time? How, as a customer of Domino's, I expect that same experience from your part-time workers. How do you manage that, Rajneet, at scale?
No, I think it's a very, very good question. And I can tell you, customers today expect and deserve a top-notch customer experience. One of the surveys says that half of the customers that we surveyed are saying they want even higher customer service expectations than they had a year before. At the same time, businesses such as us, factories, banks, retailers, we're experiencing this difficulty in staffing their operations. And to improve that, or to kind of make up for that, all of us are looking at gig workers, or this, flexi way of working, and tapping into gig economy there to supplement the workforce. But I tell you, you're absolutely bang on. One of the things that gives any marketeer, a brand guy, or business head like me nightmare is how do you manage customer experience consistency? The reliability, consistency, the quality, if it's gig resources. It's a big issue. It's the elephant in the room, and I dare say, if I made attempt to answer it in a different tangent altogether, I'm not going to answer from a customer lens. I'm going to answer it from a employee lens of the gig or the flexi employee. To my mind, the employee experience is absolutely directly related to customer experience. So, for example, and I'm sure all the books, a lot of books say that our employees are no less important than customers when it comes to organization success. So, if I change that and ensure that my employees get that kind of experience themselves, they in turn will ensure a great experience for customers. And few things on those lines, and you're known for that, is to invest heavily, and I've underlined the word called heavily, in learning and development. And we've all learned we have to embrace digital training now. A lot of people say, specific to blue collar staff, that the thinking is, these guys cannot learn. They're not that apt, they're not so educated. How will they use technology? I think COVID-19 has shattered all such assumptions. If you
Absolutely.
provide relevant content, different modes of small bites of learning, these guys will grab up onto that. The second point I would say is, provide genuine feedback to these guys, because they don't know what they don't know. These are people who are also come into the business. They don't know. If you should just provide them feedback. Third, which we do for our permanent employees, white collar employees a lot, but probably not, is to appreciate their work, what they've done. It's a tough work. It's not a job. Make them really inclusive, and help them manage stress. It is a stressful job of delivering or working for 2-3 hours, not knowing where to go. And above all, I think the one which I always say is that, make the work enjoyable. We all know, and I'm going to sum it up in a way that, over 2 decades of experience that I've had, that all Indians, including myself, we just don't work from here. We work 1.5 feet down from here, from the heart as well. So it's important to address both the employees and customers from this regard. If you do that, the customer experience is also managed well.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. There are 3 things that I read from what you said just now, Rajneet. One is, if you focus on your employees, their satisfaction, customer satisfaction is bound to happen, right? And I think the worldwide, this is a phenomenon proven that successful employees make successful customers. So this is great to hear. Second is, I think it's a very, very important point. In India, we have only 3% of the working population in the blue and gray collar economy who are trained in a structured way. Rest of them learn on the job. But there is a huge need to train people at speed and scale. In fact, we train more than 300,000 people every month for last few months now. And given the pandemic, this has started scaling really, really fast. Just one more point before I jump into the other part of the discussion. while pandemic created this situation where you had to go for a gig worker model, right, where you had to take people on part-time because of the fluctuating demand and so on. How do you see this as the pandemic goes down? Do you see this as a long-lasting phenomenon? Do you think that you as a company will drive this for next 5 years, 10 years, or you think that you will go back to the old model of having full-time employees? And what could be the perhaps the reason for those drives?
That's a very valid question, Praveen. I think this is here to stay. This is a new era, and we all need to, really adapt to this new era, which is there. And of course, as businesses, we need to provide the environment for this new era. I would put that the entire landscape of job itself is changing, right? Let me try paint, and you're the expert on this one. Let me try paint the expected future state. To my mind, there could be 6 drivers for both the companies and the employees. From the current just the job to the expected state of future. One driver would be unit of work. Today, the unit of work in our parlance, in a fixed one, was always 8 hours, 26 days a week, a period. That's what we are. The expected future, it will be work could be defined as task, freelance, customer shift, based on 2 hours to 6 hours, so giving you flexibility. So it's a lot of flexibility, and you never know with COVID or anything, any coming thing, you need flexibility. That's one thing, and that's the second point to me as well. That this flexibility, but what the employees will expect along with flexibility is also is little bit of predictability. You just can't say come this day and then don't come this. So some bit of weekly kind of rostering, letting them know that you will be required and these days will help. Third, I think, is the earning potential. I mean, what's really changed is versus the minimum wages or the capped at fixed wages that you have, it's a mixture of tasks. If you do different tasks itself, you could actually end up earning, the potential really goes up, both from the company, and companies will also give, monies for productivity. I mean, that's clearly linked. The fourth one, to my mind, is this entire learning that we keep talking about, upskilling and cross-skilling. That really goes up with this thing, and we're seeing the benefit of that. So it's a benefit win-win for the workers, it's win-win for the organizations as well. And managing this entire demand, this entire thing is the piece that we're all learning. Let me be honest. We're also learning, partnering with partners like yourself is the way, and therefore technology will play a very big part. So while a lot of fun want to dip into it and get a sense of it, my sense is we need to really submerge ourselves into this, because this is the new future.
Great. That sounds interesting. I also believe that we have been working with 1,000+ customers, and most of the customers that we speak to, they say that the world is already changing and we have to adapt to this situation. I will come back to you on the question on what's in for the individual at the end of the day, right? Because from a business point of view, we might see benefit, but what's in for the individual? One of the things that perhaps, Rajneet, I also wanted to have a conversation with you on technology side, in terms of what is required from a technology point of view. Why technology play a role in this aspect, right?
Bang on. In fact, I was trying to turn this around and ask you the same, that how are, as an organization which is doing some wonderful work on this front, how are you, working on the technology front so that it enables not the employees, but also companies like us, there. So want to really hear from you as well, Praveen, on this side.
No, absolutely. I think, and some of the customers, and we are also working with you, just started working on this direction. We believe that this phenomenon of gig workers perhaps was not possible 5 years, 6 years back, right? Primarily because of 2 reasons. As an individual, I need access to opportunities all the time. I cannot be sitting and waiting for some opportunity to come, because I need to earn some money. On the other hand, you as an employer are looking at reliability in terms of, if I need 10 people, the 10 people are turning up, right? Otherwise, you will not be able to deliver on your commitment to your customers, right? And that requires a lot of insights from a data point of view. How do you ensure that people are aware of those opportunities which is there today, opportunities that might come up 5 days from now, 10 days from now, and so on. So I'm well prepared for it. Second thing is that how well you are creating the resource pool, because when you are looking for people on a demand basis, you do not have the bench, you do not have the luxury to hire them and then train them for next 10 days and
15 days and then deploy them because you want to deploy them right away, right? How do you create a really skilled and verified resource who is ready to come and do the job as required or as being done by your workforce, right? On the other hand, you also want to know that if my resource pool is changing, right? Which direction, which agencies that I can look into so that I have more insights about people, culture, behavior, demand, and so on and so forth. On the other side, the individual who is looking for a job, they are also looking at that I should have 10 different options in front of me, whether this is in the morning, whether this is in the evening. I cannot take an option that I'm working, for example, in one part of Bombay, let's say south of Bombay, and next opportunity for me comes in Andheri, where the travel time itself is an hour and a half, right? Because I will lose that much of time and money. And at the end of the day, it's time is money in this case. Given the current situation of the demand, which is going into gig side, I personally believe if there is a platform that can match both the things in a smartest possible way, where the demands can keep coming in, you have absolute visibility, reliability on the resources will turn up as you need them. On the other hand, the resources have absolute visibility that if I'm looking for a job, I will get it whenever I need it. And then the platform is also taking care of not only matching, but also the compliances, the complete process which is integrated with that, right?
How to take care of complete process management also becomes very, very critical in this aspect, right? And I think the only way this can be handled is using technology, because otherwise you might end up with 5, 10, 20 people. But if you have to really do it for 5,000, 10,000, 20,000 people, you cannot manage this at scale without having the right technology in place. We have been seeing the adoption growing really fast. This is happening outside India as well. You see in Spain, in England, in US. Largely it used to happen in white collar space earlier. For example, people as a developer will work as a consultant for 6 months, 8 months in a year. And this is the thing which goes down into the gray and the blue collar. And I think it's good for the country, good for the people.
No, well said, Praveen. In fact, you're bang on. And, I always dreamed of when I came into this industry, and I came from Coca-Cola, so different industry. And here, this is such a consumer and employee-led industry. I always said, you have this 2 or 3 hours that, normally restaurant industries have or QSRs would have is the lunch hour. Some people have breakfast, and then there's a dinner. But you have the employees also. And the dream has always been, how can you create the Uberization of manpower? As in, and I use that word very loosely at time, but it's becoming reality, is that as in when I need the manpower, that is peak time during lunch hour, peak time during dinner hour, when I really need that scale, how can you scale up and scale down? And I can tell you the first 2-3 years is nightmarish. It's not easy to let go of people or, train such a large force to come in. But with this happening, and as you rightly said, technology, this is becoming reality. And to your point, you're right. Many countries, I was looking at the tools. US example has Gig Smart as a tool. There's a Shift Gig as a tool as well. And you have a very, very good tech solution yourself as well. Can I ask you a follow-up question, Praveen? And it's more thinking, because the BCG kind of survey says that India would have 90 million gig employees by next 5 years. I mean, that's the kind of thing. But what do you feel needs to be done as a country to empower this blue segment, blue collar segment, by creating the roadmap, which will lead to that will help the government to really frame this, because this is not just going to happen that there's demand. We really need a framework. You need create a roadmap with the government. What are your thoughts on that?
No, absolutely. I think this will not happen without certain policies, government intervention. If you look at the labor laws, the new codes which are coming perhaps will help in this direction. There are compliance rules. For example, if you're working in store for more than 4 hours, then some compliances will kick in. And how do you manage outside store if a person is working on different organizations on the same day or same week or same month, right? Similarly, what kind of benefits that you are able to give to the people? While if you are a full-time employee, you get PF and ESI, and there are many benefits attached to it. But on the other hand, if you are not, then what kind of benefits that you might get, right? Because there is always the importance is the security of my job. The flexibility must bring also the security imbibed into it. The other thing I strongly believe is the employers also have to encourage this process more and more. Today, when I work for a company, the company says that this is my talent. I will not let this talent go to somebody else because might be I will lose certain part of it, right? So I want to keep the talent within myself. I think what that is leading to is more attrition, dissatisfaction, and so on. And as you guys rightly did, when you had resources for the utilization for 2 hours, you let the resource work with Amul and others so that the person is also getting excited. The country is getting benefited. The organization is getting benefited. So it's a win-win situation in my view. So while there is part the government has to do, the part the corporates have to do, and on the third thing that I strongly believe is, and you rightly touched upon that, is more and more skilling has to happen. Today, I should be ready for my new opportunity as and when I need it. I should be able to upgrade myself from what I'm doing today, right? And the government policies around skill development and all are brilliant, but I think there is a push required towards what kind of opportunities are there on the table and how can I connect with the employer and create more employable driven skills so that you get benefited as well. I believe the organizations are thinking in this direction. Government is working on these policies. I have not gone through all the new details which has come through, but this has to be very, very employee friendly for this to be successful. And this is going to create more benefit for the individuals anyways, more jobs in my view as well. So hopefully this happens sooner than later. And a combination of technology with the right policies will really make it rocket speed for the growth of the economy in my view.
Sounds very encouraging, very, very encouraging.
So Rajni, this brings me to another question. While we discussed largely from an employer point of view, all this conversation on what's in for that employer, and there are certain benefits for the individual, but some of these conversations that we are having with individuals working in different companies, and they tell us that right now I'm in a fixed job, I have absolute visibility on my income, that will be, might be 15,000, 18,000, whatever, and I get my PF, ESI, so there is a security, right? Which is one point which has to come with the new labor laws as well. But in gig, I might not have the full security because it might be driven by the demand and I do not know whether I will get the demand or not. So in your view, when you are talking to the potential workers with you, the employees who will be part of the gig workforce, what kind of motivation you are creating for them? What are you telling them that, hey, look, if you join this, this is what you're going to get. Why would I get motivated to join you as a delivery boy for a part-time where I do not have clarity on my next job, perhaps?
Very, very relevant question, and I'll answer it the other way around. I'll first tell my existing employees and my team members this, and this is what I keep telling. First, we need to change our mindset, and there's a mindset because we have to be inclusive about this entire thing. This is not one that, oh, this is coming for a part-time, this is not my employee. So the mindset here first changes within the organization, between my leaders, my restaurant store managers, the shift managers there, that this is important. So here's our thought on it, and here's our blueprint, if I may say so, on 5 things, and I'm sure there are many, and you're an expert on this. We've looked at 5 factors, literally, Praveen, here. One of them is, of course, starting with being inclusive and very highly engaged with this kind of gig economy. It's just not that people are coming and going out. And I could go back actually to my earlier role in Coca-Cola when we had these frontliners, when we're doing this survey called RED, Right Execution Daily. That's the first time, if I would say, a leaf in a FMCG, a multinational company in a way of gig started, where we hired people from third party, which was very different. And we kind of gave them tasks. Initially, it didn't work. We said, when we would have meetings, you will have the gig or / the flexi or the people frontline in one section of the meeting, and your so-called white collar, everybody would sit this way. And I had to literally get everybody up. And I say, if you're one family, would you go and see a movie like this, that you will have one person here and one person there? So please get up, change seats, embrace your team. So this word of inclusion cannot be just by saying, it has to really be implemented. So once you start being inclusive, that's one thing that these people will get connected to, right? Very facts, rather than saying gig, for example, we don't call them gig, we will call them business associates, because they are adding value to you. there's a positive impact that they make on the business. And that once gets established, the change happens. The second why you're absolutely right, Praveen, is that reliability and assurance. Why would I come to work if I don't know I'm being called only 3-4 hours one day and not the next week or when it is? So we have to give them a bit of assurance and visibility that, hey, I might not be needing you 8 hours all the days, but you know what? I'll give you 4 hours every day for the next 2 weeks. So that's really assuring, right? So every one of us in every job, whether it's the manufacturing job or any services sector, you have rostering. So if you're able to share that rostering well in advance with the team and tell them, for the next 2 weeks, I'm assuring you that when you come in here, you will have work here in these hours and everything. That itself takes care of people. Third one, I think the entire people related policies, and I believe my HR teams and every one of us, we debate fiercely. Why should be there 2 policies? If they're one team, then they should their policies invite to everybody, So how, and also how do you provide them multiple opportunities? For example, if I am there as a rider, Raj, who's joining Domino's or anybody in the company, say Zomato or Swiggy, what is the career graph? What is that? Because all of us, we don't want to be riders all the life, right? You want to grow as well. Every person is here, has ambition to grow. So if you can provide him the career graph, visibility, so, if you do this, you'll keep upskilling yourself. This is how you could become a store manager in say 1.5 years. And that's provide a lot of encouragement to people. Fourth one, it is not just about earning. And I hear a lot of people, why gig workers come? Because they earn more per ride delivery and they'll earn more for doing this task. It is about learning and earning. It's two together, right? So the focus on upskilling, where you are able to invest in them, will not get that kind of opportunities. They can keep working there in any other organization. Here, you really have an opportunity to not just deliver. You can come inside the restaurant, learn how to spread, stretch the pizzas, do the loading. You could be working on that side. There are 3 stations you could be working. And then, what? Sometimes you might even become, so the learning and earning go together. It's not just one. And I think the last one, I think it's all, all organizations will go by productivity and utilization rather than treating them as commodity, treating them that they're here really to contribute, not just to your organization, but really into themselves as an organization, makes a huge difference. And let's call that out. Let them know that. So that conversation is very, very important. If we are able to do these 5, we're trying to do these 5. I don't know, there are many more I know we can do. That itself, I think any employee would be love to be part of this kind of structure.
Brilliant. I think this could not have been better. These 5 things that you mentioned are perhaps the most critical as I see it as well. And when we talk to people, the only ask that they have is, are we at the center of gravity? Are we treated on par with everyone else, right? It is not always about how much money I could make, but it is the respect, it is the dignity, it is being equals, right? And it's really encouraging to hear that, Rajneet. Thanks so much for that. And as I always say, Domino's is, or Jubilant is defining the category. When the delivery started, 35 minutes or 33 minutes delivery many years back. And again, in the pandemic time, how to manage the situation. And my last question, I cannot stop asking that. What would be your suggestion, guidance, Rajneet, to the budding entrepreneurs in the delivery segments or the CHROs, CEOs of the organization who are in the audience today or outside? Given the pandemic situation and that we are coming back to economy, things are moving on the right side. How should they manage the situation going forward? What is your learning? What would be your suggestion? Might be 2-3 important points that you would like to suggest so that everyone does as good as you.
But these are big words, and I hope we are living up to those. But we're just doing our best for being there. But I think India itself needs a pat on the back, and we can be very critique. We are there. I think we've gone through 3 different stages. We're going through them. The first situation was, I call it the cry situation. That why has this happened? This pandemic, and disbelief that why is this happening to me? And we were in that cry situation. Slowly in a 2 months period, when April and when May also the lockdown extended last year, we realized, we just can't be in cry, we have to start trying. So we went from cry to try situation where we started working, we found new ways of working, whether it's moving to fixed to flexi and then to gig economy in our case. And I'm sure everybody looked at cost lines, they looked at pivoting the models. So we were in the try stage. And I think now changing gears and God forbid, if any third wave comes, we're in the fly stage, wherein I am an incorrigibly optimistic person. I believe in the resurgence of India. So I will always say that then we're in a fly stage where we can now taking the learnings, because this can't go back to the normal, if I have to say. Last year was a new normal. I kept hearing this new word, new normal. I said 2021 second wave is abnormal. We didn't kind of have this kind of way. But the learnings are that you just can't go back to the same cost and same way of working. We ourselves being realized that you need to be agile as businesses. We need to be flexible. Look at like an entrepreneur, not like an employee, to every damn cost line being there. And employee cost is not a cost line. It's the way of doing business. For us, this is the business, right? I always say that I don't have 1,400 outlets. I have 1,400 factories, because the employees there are making the piece of their hand. That's the way it is. And we don't have 1,400 store managers. We have 1,400 CEOs. These are the guys who take the decision there. And I can tell you today, everybody is embracing change. Our team members, store managers who were very critical at one time of, having this flexible kind of working and all, have embraced it, saying this is the right way of working. Employees are having that kind of time. And this is the way forward. This is a new India, new era. And probably this will be the way forward there. So I've learned probably myself and all of us going through, time, that if your heart and mind is working, that itself is good enough. So if you keep saying all is well, that's very important as well. While businesses are there, but that's very important as well. The EQ factor, the AQ factor now, which is adversity quotient, is as important as the IQ and the EQ that we used to keep talk about. So that's where I will say that, that's the learning if I have had in the last 1.5 years.
Fantastic, Rajdip. It's such a pleasure to hear that the situation is becoming better, and it is about how do you manage your heart along with the mind and keep doing the right things all the time. I have many other points that I wanted to actually chat about. Given the time constraint, I'll pass on to Abid for Q&A. Abid.
Thank you so much, Praveen and Rajneet. I know you have a lot of questions, but I think we have many questions from the audience as well. So I think you guys need to address them. Hope you are fine with it. Can I start the audience question? Can I start taking one by one?
Yes, please. And I'll pass the difficult ones to Praveen if you don't mind.
So I'll start with Praveen. So Praveen, Sanjay, the first question is from Sanjay, and Sanjay is asking, the new labor laws are going to be really have an impact on gig economy. Any comments?
Yeah, so it is still to be looked into detail, Abid and Sanjay, because currently there are certain provisions that we have seen. For example, you can work 40 hours a week, 12 hours max in a day. So in 4 days, you can do your week's job, 3 days off. But how will you utilize those 3 days? What kind of compliance will kick in those cases? I think there are nuances that we have to work on. In my view, the government is spending time talking to the organizations, industry, and figuring out the right things for the individual. So it's still not there, but it has to address the challenges of workers, keeping them at the center of the gravity, not just a policy point of view. So let's wait and see what are the new changes coming in more detail.
Yeah, sure. Good point for me. So next question is from Aditi Panwar. Aditi is asking, the question is for you, Rajneet. Aditi is asking, as we are now moving towards gig workforce, how do you develop and retain talent?
It's a very valid question, and Praveen also alluded towards that as well. I think 3 things work really well. The entire way of learning and development, using technology, the virtual ways, using technology to onboard your people. We were really struggling because we thought, how would you onboard people? We always train people that way, but you learn. We've invested in the best of the L&D software through SAP, and we evaluated that, moved really fast. Now people don't want to go back to the same classroom way of working. So that's the connect that we used to always feel that if you don't have classroom, employees might be doing something else. You want that control. So as leaders, as trainers, we have to let go of that control mentality that we all have, that employees might not be turning. So that's learning and development, to my mind, is going to be a very, very important thing. As I said, learning and earning going together. The second one will be always about inclusion. You have to be inclusive. You have to keep engaging them. You have to have programs. We have a very interesting program where we have lucky draws for our employees. They win tickets of how many deliveries they do, and they can win bike. They can win gold and cash and all that. But that's the way, and it's the same for a white in the stores and the same there. There's no difference. So once you, as Praveen also said, remove that line that this is a separate team and this is a separate team. That's how the retention starts. People start believing and feeling the way they want to come back to you because you're doing that small things for them.
Okay, so thank you so much. So next question is from Varinder, and sorry, the next question is from Manoj, and Manoj is asking, it has become difficult for NGO to get sponsorship and industry collaboration for empowering programs. How to resolve this issue or improve this condition? I think Praveen, would you like to answer this question?
Rajnit can answer that better because we do not create any CSR. We are still an early startup. But how I see this, I think there's a lot of capital coming in from CSR funds for people. We have seen this even during the pandemic, be it skilling. There are training partners, training centers who are actually running a lot of programs, be it health workers, be it construction side, or even for delivery segments and so on. There is a lot of money coming for upskilling of individuals. You have to ensure that you are in contact with the right set of people, and capital will not be a problem. What you have to really ensure is that money is not for making money, it is for skilling people. If you're doing that, I don't think capital is an issue at all, at least what we see interacting with our set of partners and organizations.
Your thoughts, Sujit?
No, I think very well captured by Praveen here. I have nothing to add than to say that it's all about upskilling them enough and more. There's some really good work being done by NGOs. I must compliment them. And the entire thing with the government that, companies like Betterplace, Shadowfax, and others are doing is the way that we need to provide that entire ecosystem around it. And they're the ones who are doing that. So I would say it's all in the right track. The companies will have to reach out like we're doing to find out which are the NGOs, partner with them. See, this pandemic has taught one thing: you're not alone in this, and you cannot work alone in this. You need to keep partnering and collaborating. That's the way forward.
Good point that you can't work alone. You need to partner for sure. So another question is from Vineet, and Vineet is asking, do you see a challenge if a flexi worker is working with multiple employers? How can we cope up with the information security if person work with competition? Should I repeat the question?
No, it is clear. Might be Rajnit can add from industry point of view. My perspective a bit on that, and we see this data of millions of people every year, right? Whether you agree or disagree, people are already working on two different organizations at times, right? I might be working for two different cab providers. I'm working in the morning doing delivery for, let's say, milk through one of the leading startups. And in the evening, I'm doing a delivery with a grocery who are also in milk delivery in the morning, perhaps, right? Or I'm doing security in the morning shift for one company, and evening I'm doing this in the other company. This is the culture. This is happening for ages in the country, right? It is becoming more structured now, right? Gig economy is not a new phenomenon. I mean, my domestic help is working in 5 different places for months together. That's gig economy. So this is going to happen. This is happening. We have to bring more structure into it so that it becomes a process and not just another side activity. So I do not see this as an issue until and unless, for example, there are key aspects, right? There are certain core activities. For example, the recipe that you are making, and you go and this is your core, and you take this recipe to a competition, I think that will be difficult to manage perhaps, but there are things which are relatively easier to manage for sure.
Okay, good. So another question is from Barkha, and Barkha is asking, what is the best way to manage the legal compliance issues of gig workers? Also, it would be great if you can share some benefits which are considered for gig workers.
If I can start off, and of course, Praveen can add, is I think you need to be compliant completely. There's no, we should not use legal. At times, I know people use legal to find ways around it. The way we look at it, whatever needs to be compliant, we have to adhere to it. There's no two way about it. That's one. And the second part of it, Praveen, you want to add to that in terms of benefits and all?
Yeah, so I think absolutely right. First of all, we need to be compliant. There is no compromise on that, no choice. Second is with respect to benefits, there are a lot of things being worked out right now. How can a pension scheme work? So if you are a full-time employee, there is a provident fund scheme, there is an ESI scheme and so on. But for gig workers, it's not there. Officially, it's not there, but organizations fortunately are working on multiple different benefits. For example, insurance benefit, health insurance benefit, uh, banking benefit, credit benefit. So there are multiple benefits which are coming in. Like Rajnita was also asking in the beginning about government policies, some of these things could become a policy in the sense that you have to provide insurance benefit to all your workers, whether they are full-time or gig workers, whether this is ESI or an opt-in insurance policy or health policy for that matter. But I am absolutely sure that organizations take care of their employees. They ensure that they get everything that they deserve, right? Whether there is a policy or not a policy. And in fact, I believe that if there is no policy, sometimes you end up taking more care because you are at the helm of everything, right? So I do not see this as this as an issue. But what is also happening, the good thing is that with the data-driven approach, more and more access is coming to people. Yesterday, people didn't have access to credit, for example, right? You and I apply for a loan, we will get it. But most of the people in India will not get it. Today, that is becoming possible. So I think more and more access will be available to people. And this will be driven by organizations primarily, and also through the policies that we spoke about.
So the next question for you, Rajneet. So the question is, do you see the gig workers only in blue collar space? Does the future have tech and other professionals become gig workers as a way of life? Possibility of more gig rather than permanent employment in white collar work? I think there are three questions same, but most.
I'll try to attempt. We're all reading about every organization jumping onto the technology. Everybody's life need to go digital. They need to have technology, and there are only so many engineers and so many people that's there. The nature of it, it's a demand supply. I mean, it's always, the universe is always about the demand and supply. The demand and supply will force for us to let go of our employees being just with us. They will, if they're finding opportunities in different areas, you'll have to let go in other industries as well. It will happen. It could happen in digital first. The guy might work 3-4 hours in one location, 3-4 hours in other locations, because he's a COE, he's an expert on that. So in our mind, as I say, the journey is going to be here between these 2 years, or a mindset first of this is the way it is going to be in the future. I do see that, but irrespective, organizations which are going to be career-led and employee-centric in true sense of really treating them as their own are the ones which are going to be holding up to these employees by providing them career thinking. They may or not driven, but the difference will be that a person, if I'm known, so if I'm working in an organization, if I know Praveen is going to be providing me after 3 months, I can get to this level. After 6 months, I can get to this level. The tendency and the likelihood of that employee staying with this organization is better than an organization which I have no idea that if I go there, it's just work. So that's the environment the organizations will have to create. And we have to be open-minded on being in many factors there in other industries as well.
Another question is, as employers, I think Rajneet, you can answer it, and I would also like to have Praveen's thought on the same question. As employers, how do you manage career progression for gig workers?
So it's a very good question, and we've very well thought through this before we even got into any of this. So I'll tell you, as human beings, you want, and I was just alluding to that one just before this is. So we've thought through this, that there is a skill. There are 2 levels of skill set in our industry, okay, and it could be in any restaurant industry. There's a skill level that's required for stretching pizza, making pizza, topping, and all that. That's internal, and we want to protect that, right? But there's one that we're doing about delivery and therefore consistency, training about those things. Now that rider at any point of time doesn't want to be rider all his life, right? I've already said that he's not that he'll also age after some time. He'll need some progression. So what we've designed is a laddering approach where after 3 months he gets one kind of star where he gets to another grade. After 6 months he gets graded to another. And after 6 months, if he's done well and different driver scorecard and those things are there, he gets a choice of coming into the restaurant, getting that kind of work. And that person is, we're saying, rider to manager in 2 years' time, if you could be there, that's the kind of program that we're leading in now as well. And I have several examples currently in Domino's, while gig has come now, where a lot of people who were T-boys and then were riders and now becoming managers running largest region for the country of running 300 stores versus 500 crores of business. There's a people who are there. So it's a great example of a company. And that's what I think organizations will have to work through, of creating a laddering scale of saying people see themselves growing, right? And it could be very, very small incremental money is there. It's not necessarily there, but people want to grow. That's inherent in all of us. And that's what we need to get into.
No, absolutely, absolutely. And there are two things that I would add on to that. Number one is that organizations should not treat, like Rajnit said, people in this category as commodity, right? They are critical part of the company. Like he said, a store manager is a CEO. The delivery is a factory where people are producing and doing it. They are basically the ambassador of the organization, right? They are not the cost center always. They are the profit center as well, because they are running, you are getting money. So I think it is very important that instead of seeing this as a commodity, we see this as talent. And when you see them as talent, you are looking at growing those talent as well, right? So this becomes very, very important. And people are aspirational. People are aspirational. They want to learn, they want to grow, and they want to earn more. Everyone wants to do the same thing. The second thing is, from an individual point of view, some of the people, or rather most of the people that we talk to and we have seen, they also do not see always that I can achieve certain things, right? So they give up at some point of time, that I am a security guard, I will stay a security guard forever, right? So we have to create those role models, people who are getting into those, from a delivery boy to a store manager. We have to create those stories. We have to tell people that this is a possibility. We are doing it. You can do it, right? And when that happens, I think everyone moves forward in career, in economy, in every respect for that matter, right? So I think these are the two things that must happen. And I'm looking forward to it, working together with everyone in that direction.
Okay, I have, I think, one last question. This is a long one. And Debabrata is asking, gig workers are exploited without any kind of security. And if we look at the Western world, there are many countries who have taken steps to reclassify and ensure that the gig workers are afforded protection under labor laws. Should India also take similar steps which will encourage entry of more and more gig workers and easing out pain of organizations?
So it might be Rajnit can take up as well, but like I said, there are policies being worked out. First of all, organizations are taking care of the employees, and given the pandemic, it is even more than what it was in 2019. Post-pandemic, I see very, very deep engagement with their employees. In fact, there is a mental health, not only the physical health people are taking care of, their family's health people are taking care of. So it is happening. At the same time, there are policies being worked out. I truly believe that there are certain things that should be done so that there is a standard being followed, right? It is not just that I do it because there is a need, but there is some kind of standard that is coming in, which gives the workers more comfort. As you rightly said, that when I come in, I know that these are the things that will happen at least minimum, so that I'm more comfort, the security is more, and so on. But this is happening, and it will be positive in my view for everyone.
I can just add with the one more line. I know we're short on time there. I think every organization making that impact. Okay, I can give an example of Jubilant. We went with the vaccination drive, not just for the frontline and 30,000 people, but also their families, 100% free of cost, their spouses, their parents. And that's a big number, right? 30,000 into 4. But we didn't even blink an eye. There's not a cost that we look at it, and neither do other organizations. A very firm belief. I don't think so. Organizations which are really firmly embedded in these things will never do that. They'll not blink an eye. If we're doing it, I'm sure every other organization is also doing it. So I don't see any reason for us. Of course, as Praveen said, the government would come up with the entire ecosystem to be there. And I'm very confident.
Absolutely.
Thank you, guys. But I have one more question, and that is for Rajdeep, and it's a very quick one. If you can answer, Rajdeep. The question is, if you, by any chance, your blue-collar workers or contractual workers ever move on payroll?
Sorry, I didn't get your question.
By any chance, your blue-collar workers or your contractual workers come on payroll, like after working for some time?
Yeah, that's the way we've designed our entire organization, career pathing as well. So as we keep upskilling and cross-skilling people, if they get those skills, they will be there. I mean, that's the journey I followed even in Coca-Cola. I remember people used to be a third-party role there, and then we used to give them that after 2 years you could be there. I genuinely believe their skill set. There's a talent, right? That's how you treat your talent pool, whether it's on role or not role, it doesn't matter. It's your talent. That's the way I look at it, for sure. Why not?
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Praveen, and thank you so much, Rajneet, for sharing your thoughts. And this topic was niche, but I have received so many questions that I haven't received in last few webinars, and people are still sending questions. But I think you guys can reach out to Praveen and Rajneet over LinkedIn and ask your question. I'm sure they'll be happy to answer it. And really many points that I have written. And but one thing what Rajneet said, I'll take my key takeaway from this session will be success employee success is customer success. That is one, and second is we work from here most of the time and not here. So thank you, Rajneet, for sharing those valuable pointers, and thank you, Praveen, for adding your thoughts and giving a different angle as well. Thank you so much, gentlemen. And
thanks, thanks, Rajneet, for the lovely conversation. So much to learn from you, and it's so encouraging to hear all the perspectives that you shared. And there's many things that I will definitely apply everywhere.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your
time. Likewise, Praveen, huge learning curve for me as well, and it's been a pleasure to be part of this. So thank you so much for having me here. Thank you.
Thank you.